This woman feels so incredibly guilty towards her husband for what she gotten herself into. It can definitely not be easy for him to see her like this. Incarcerated, forced to wear a degrading bright orange jumpsuit, securely locked in a pair of handcuffs, and facing up to 4 years behind bars. She accepts that she deserves to be punished for her stupid decisions, but it does deeply hurt her that she is making the love of her life suffer the consequences of her actions as well. He will now have to make ends meet and live his life all on his own. It makes her feel like such a failure of a wife. Fortunately, he tells her that he is not angry at her in the slightest, that he loves her just as much as he ever did, and that he will come visit her as much as possible. That is of course great to hear, but at the same time it does also make her feel even more inadequate. Like she is not deserving of such a loving and loyal man. Like he is definitely deserving of someone better than her. Someone who doesn't mess up so badly they end up getting locked away for probably multiple years. Living in cuffs and chains is nothing new for this young woman. She has already had to spend several years of her life in prison once before. And of course she isn't proud of that, nor is she proud of getting herself incarcerated now once again. Despite that though, she does still manage to stay positive. And that is entirely because she knows she can count on her family to support her during these hard times. It may hurt to be locked away from her loved ones, and it may be utterly humiliating to have them see her in this uniform and these restraints, but knowing that they will be waiting for her does make her time behind bars bearable. This young lady may be deeply sorry for all her wrongdoings, but of course it is very hard to make an apology come across as genuine when you have to present it like this. In court while forced to wear a degrading striped uniform and helplessly locked in full set of cuffs and chains. Everyone knows her fate depends on the remorse she shows right now during her sentencing, so obviously anything she says is very easy to dismiss. The only thing that might actually be convincing is for her to agree that she does not deserve mercy and that she should be locked up for a very long time instead. Her lawyer advised against it though. And each time she wrote it down on her notes, it did not take long for her to scratch it out again. Now that she is reading out loud her apology, though she can't help but keep thinking about it. It may be the only way to clean her conscience, but it basically also guarantees she will be living in cuffs and chains for a very long time to come still. It is an impossible choice, and she has no one to blame for that but herself. This is not the first time this young woman has ended up in a striped jumpsuit and a full set of restraints. And that is exactly what upsets her so much right now. Because the previous time she got herself in trouble, she had to spend 3.5 years of her life in prison. Forced to live in cuffs and chains without any freedom whatsoever, it was a demoralizing experience. But at least she could tell herself it taught her a valuable lesson and changed her into a well-functioning member of society. But now that she is once again locked up, she clearly can't tell herself that any longer. So, after lying to herself for quite some time, she will now finally have to admit those years in prison were simply wasted. And of course, that also means the next several she will probably have to spend in prison will also be nothing but a waste. Valuable time she will be forced to spend in the same small barren cell block every single day. It makes her feel so utterly miserable and pathetic, but unfortunately for her there is absolutely nothing she can do about it now. These are simply the consequences of her actions. Getting paraded around in public with your wrists tightly cuffed behind your back and your ankles securely shackled together is of course supposed to be a humiliating experience. But this young lady actually feels great. That is because the police and the DA went after her hard for getting into a fight with a cop. They trumped up the charges against her and relentlessly vilified her in the media. But unfortunately for them, the cop she got into a fight with was actually determined to be in the wrong, so all the most serious charges against her had to be dropped. She is still in trouble for some minor other wrongdoings, but she has taken full responsibility for that and will almost certainly only get a few months at most as punishment. So while they are trying to intimidate and humiliate her, all they are doing is expose themselves for the corrupt and vindictive bullies they are. She may be locked in cuffs and chains, but she is definitely the one who has come out on top. For the first decade or so of her adulthood, this woman had her life together pretty much perfectly. She had a good education, a well-paying job, a happy marriage. But for some reason, as she gets older, she just keeps messing up more and more. This is already her 5th time getting arrested, and since she is on probation, right now she will definitely not be getting her freedom back anytime soon. And sadly for her, that means she will undoubtedly lose her well-paying job this time. Miraculously, she was able to hold on to it during her previous shorter stint behind bars, but that is definitely not going to be the case this time. Not to mention that the trouble she keeps getting herself into is also not doing wonders for her marriage. Even if she somehow gets a relatively short sentence, now she is really not sure if her husband is even willing to stay with her. Once she finally gets to have her freedom back, she might just have to build her entire life up again from scratch. And as a convicted felon, that is definitely not going to be easy. It makes her feel like such a failure. Rebecca Sayegh. Although she had been a police officer for years now, due to her actions during a sudden mental health crisis, she now finds herself on the other side of the law. She broke into her ex-boyfriend's home, assaulted him, and threatened to burn the whole place down. Needless to say, she won't ever get to wear a badge again after that, and she will undoubtedly be locked up for quite some time as well. Whether that will be as an inmate in prison or as a patient at a mental health facility, she does not yet know. But of course she is not happy in the slightest about either, and she really has no clue which one is actually worse. Either way, she'll have to learn to live with the consequences of her actions now, no matter how much she regrets what she did. Even though this young woman has been in custody for quite some time now after covering up her boyfriend's horrible crimes, this court appearance is actually the first time her friends and family get to see her in a full set of restraints. So while she herself is already used to it, for her loved ones it's devastating to see her like this. Having to awkwardly waddle around with her wrists helplessly cuffed to her waist and her ankles securely chained together. Shackled up like she is not just a person who made some very bad mistakes, but a rabid maniac who is a threat to everyone around her. It is dehumanizing, but unfortunately for her she will simply have to accept being treated like this, even in front of all her friends and family. If she wanted to live in dignity, then she shouldn't have tried to cover up a manslaughter. These are simply the consequences of her actions. This is what she deserves. With her wrists tightly zip-tied together, this young protester is put in the back of a police van. While beforehand, she claimed to not be afraid of going to jail, right now she is most definitely not at ease in the slightest. Separated from all her friends, her hands helplessly tied behind her back, and having absolutely no clue for how long she will be stuck in custody. All of this is a lot more overwhelming than she had anticipated. Unfortunately, for her though, there is no way back now. She will just have to accept whatever is going to happen to her next, no matter how much she doesn't like it. As a dominatrix, this woman is used to being the one who is in control. She is used to locking others in restraints, making them wear degrading outfits, putting them in cages, barking out orders at them, and punishing them for even the slightest bit of disobedience. She loved that sense of power it gave her. Sadly for her, though, she is now on the receiving end of those harsh treatments, and, of course, she does not like that one bit. She was complicit in a brutal homicide, so she will almost certainly have to endure all of it for the rest of her life. Having to live in cuffs and chains, always being made to submit and obey, and having no freedom whatsoever. It is a pathetic and miserable fate, and she will just have to learn to live with that. It is exactly what she deserves. Bella Cully. Only 18 years old, accidentally pregnant, and facing 15 years to life in a former Soviet prison. This young lady from the UK is in some very deep trouble, and she has absolutely no one to blame for it but herself. That is because she tried to smuggle 14 kilograms of cocaine into the country of Georgia. Of course, that was going to have a dire outcome, and sadly for her now, there is no way back. She will simply have to suffer the consequences of her actions, no matter how much she regrets what she did. #handcuffs.